We are taking you to Clearwater, Florida, USA in 1971. A woman fails the LSAT twice and spends 7 years selling fax machines door to door in Florida heat. A decade later, she becomes the youngest self-made female billionaire in history. At 86,400 stories, we document how ordinary people build extraordinary empires from nothing. Researched, condensed, under 20 minutes. Now to Sara Blakely. Sara Blakely was born in 1971 in Clearwater, Florida, USA. The environment shaped everything that came after. In 1990s America, a woman selling fax machines door to door in Florida heat wasn't the profile of a future billionaire. The fashion industry was controlled by men who'd been in it for decades. A woman with no fashion experience, no business education, and no connections had no template for success. Female billionaires barely existed. Self-made female billionaires under 40 literally didn't. She came from modest circumstances, failing the LSAT twice before spending 7 years selling fax machines door to door in the Florida heat. In Clearwater, circa 1971, families like her weren't supposed to dream about empires. They were supposed to survive, get by, accept whatever ceiling the system placed above them. Sara Blakely was already seeing things differently. Not asking, how do I fit in? But how do I build something that doesn't exist yet? The early years tested everything. Sara Blakely thought she knew about persistence. Resources ran out multiple times. Doors closed faster than new ones opened. The people who were supposed to help kept saying the same thing. This isn't going to work. Be realistic. Find something stable. You're not the kind of person who builds this kind of thing. She heard no so many times it stopped registering as an answer and started sounding like a challenge. This wasn't a setback. It was the landscape. Every door that opened led to another that was locked tighter. Every maybe turned into a no. But every rejection revealed something. A gap in her approach, a flaw in the pitch, or sometimes just confirmation that the other person couldn't see what she could see. The struggle wasn't just about money or resources. It was about convincing a world that had already made up its mind. Then Sara Blakely found the gap, not through inspiration, through observation and necessity. She saw something the market was telling she that competitors couldn't hear because they were too comfortable to listen. They were too invested in how things had always been done to see how things could be done differently. Sara Blakely wasn't burdened by that comfort. She had nothing to protect and everything to build. The pivot wasn't dramatic from the outside. It rarely is. But it was the moment when everything that came before started to compound instead of just accumulate. All the rejection had been training. All the struggle had been research. Sara Blakely wasn't just building a business. She was proving a thesis that nobody else believed in yet. Spanx started to work, not overnight, not dramatically, but consistently. What started as an idea that nobody believed in became a machine that nobody could ignore. The same qualities that made the early years so difficult, the outsider perspective, the desperation turned discipline, the inability to accept no as final, now became moats that competitors couldn't cross. They could copy the product. They couldn't copy the hunger. The growth wasn't luck. It was compound interest on years of work that nobody saw or applauded. Every failure had taught something specific. Every rejection had pointed toward the approach that would actually work. Sara Blakely had become an expert in her industry, not through credentials, but through the accumulated weight of doing. As she later said, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. Today, Sara Blakely stands at the helm of an empire worth $1.2 billion. The transformation seems almost impossible when laid out like this. From nothing to $1.2 billion. From no resources to resources that could fund nations. But the numbers are just the visible part. The internal change, the moment Sara Blakely decided the ceiling didn't apply, happened long before anyone could see it. That decision, made in obscurity, is what made everything else possible. So what do we learn from the story of Sara Blakely? That starting points don't determine destinations. That the constraints you face can become advantages. That impossible is often just hasn't been done yet. And that her story proves, documented, verified, that possibility has no postcode. If this story meant something to you, if it gave you even a small piece of what you needed today, subscribe to 86,400 stories. New documentaries 3 times per week, all under 20 minutes. Tell me in the comments, what part of this story hit hardest for you? I read every single one. And remember, possibility has no postcode. Anything is possible.